Welcome to Cheaters Theater. Over 95% of you watch without subscribing. Please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell. And tell us, where are you watching from? We'd love to know. Let's begin. Andrew Drew Keene methodically adjusted his bie and tie in the bathroom mirror of their Chicago apartment. His reflection showed a man who had mastered the art of patience, a dangerous quality in someone plotting revenge. At 39, his face carried the composed expression of a man who had spent years calculating his next move. While others mistook his silence for weakness, the bathroom counter displayed his wife Lauren's expensive cosmetics, scattered carelessly like her empty promises. Drew's eyes fixed on her wedding ring, discarded by the sink. She had stopped wearing it 4 months ago, claiming it was too tight. He knew better now. His phone buzzed with another notification from the surveillance software he had installed on Lauren's devices. He did not need to read it. The previous messages between her and Colin Avery had told him everything. His MBA from the University of Chicago had not just taught him business strategy. It had taught him the value of thorough intelligence gathering. "Dad, are you going out tonight?" Caleb's voice came from the doorway. Drew turned to face his 13-year-old son, his expression softening momentarily. The boy had his father's analytical mind and his mother's dark hair. Thankfully, that was where the similarities with Lauren ended. "Yes, buddy. I have an important dinner meeting. Mrs. Delgado will stay with you until I get back." Drew placed a firm hand on Caleb's shoulder. "Have you finished your science project?" "Almost. Mom was supposed to help, but she had another emergency meeting at work." Caleb's air quotes made Drew's jaw tighten imperceptibly. "We will work on it together tomorrow. I promise." Drew's promises, unlike Lauren's, were ironclad. He had spent the last decade building his life around Caleb's schedule, taking consulting jobs that allowed him flexibility while Lauren pursued her executive ambitions at Meridian Technologies. In his home office, Drew opened his laptop and reviewed the dossier one final time. The surveillance had been comprehensive. GPS locations, credit card statements, hotel receipts, and text messages. Colin Avery, Lauren's 34-year-old marketing director, had been careless. Their mockery of Drew in private messages made his blood run cold. "He's such a pathetic house husband," Lauren had written. "All that education wasted on being a glorified babysitter. Thank God I found a real man." Colin's response had been equally contemptuous. "He probably thinks he's being noble supporting your career. Can't wait till we don't have to hide anymore, baby." Drew's fingers moved across the keyboard with surgical precision as he drafted 2 messages. The first one, to Lauren: "Meet me at Bramwell, 9 p.m. We need to talk." Simple, direct, a command disguised as a request. The second message required more finesse. Jake Nolan, his college roommate, turned Meridian Technologies board member, had been Drew's silent partner for months. "Everything's in position. Commence phase 1. Jake's response was immediate. "Sabrina's on board. She's bringing the documentation." Drew stood and walked to his closet, selecting a bespoke Tom Ford suit he had never worn before. Tonight deserved something special. As he dressed, he reviewed the mental checklist he had been compiling since the first suspicious text message 4 months ago. The corporate takeover strategy was already in motion. Eleanor Hastings, Meridian's aging founder, had taken a particular liking to Drew during his consulting projects. She had seen in him something Lauren never had, a strategic mind that prioritized long-term success over quick wins. While Lauren climbed the corporate ladder through office politics, Drew had been quietly building relationships with the people who actually controlled the company. His phone chimed with a message from Detective Maya Alvarez. Additional surveillance photos from the Park Hyatt Chicago uploaded to secure server. Timestamps match expense reports. "Excellent work," Drew replied. "Transfer the final payment as discussed." A soft knock at his office door interrupted his thoughts. Mrs. Delgado, their longtime housekeeper, stood with concern etched on her face. "Mr. Keene, Caleb asked me to give you this." She handed him a folded piece of paper. Caleb's school calendar. His science fair was marked for the following week, with "Mom promised to come" written in hopeful pencil marks. Drew's expression remained neutral, but his resolve hardened further. "Thank you, Mrs. Delgado. Please make sure Caleb does his homework before any TV tonight." As she left, Drew opened his safe and retrieved a USB drive containing months of financial records. Lauren's creative expense reports would make excellent ammunition for both the divorce proceedings and the corporate restructuring. He checked his watch. 8:30 p.m. Time to set the trap. He sent a text to Bramwell's maitre d', Olivia Park, who owed him a favor after Drew had helped her daughter secure a scholarship. Table for 5. Private alcove. Usual arrangements. Drew walked into Caleb's room, where his son was bent over his science project, a detailed model of renewable energy systems. "I'm heading out now, buddy. Don't stay up too late." Caleb looked up, his young face serious. "Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced?" Drew sat on the edge of the bed, maintaining eye contact. "What makes you ask that?" "I'm not stupid. I heard her on the phone with someone named Colin. She was laughing about you." Caleb's hands clenched into fists. "She said you were holding her back." Drew placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder. "Whatever happens, you are my priority, always have been, always will be." Some people mistake kindness for weakness, patience for passivity. They learn their error too late. Caleb nodded, understanding more than a 13-year-old should have to. "Will we have to move?" "No. This is our home. Some things will change, but not that." Drew stood, straightening his jacket. "Focus on your project. We will talk more tomorrow." In the kitchen, Drew left detailed instructions for Mrs. Delgado and a generous bonus check. She had been loyal for years, and loyalty was something he valued above all else. He gathered the final pieces of evidence into his briefcase: bank statements, hotel receipts, and surveillance photos, each document a bullet in the case he had been quietly building. The night air was cool as Drew stepped into his Audi A8. He had bought it used 3 years ago, letting Lauren believe it was all he could afford on his consulting income. The truth about his financial standing, like many things, would soon come to light. His phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "Sabrina's got the shareholder proxies. Eleanor's lawyer confirmed the trust documentation is ironclad." Drew allowed himself a small smile as he drove toward Bramwell. Lauren had always underestimated him, mistaking his strategic patience for weakness. She laughed when he settled for consulting work, never questioning why a Booth-caliber MBA would choose smaller clients over prestigious firms. She dismissed his friendship with Jake as nostalgic college ties, never suspecting they were orchestrating her downfall. The restaurant's valet recognized him, nodding respectfully. Inside, Olivia greeted him with practiced discretion, leading him to the private alcove where Jake Nolan and Sabrina Cortez were already seated. Sabrina, a venture capitalist known for her ruthless acquisition strategies, had been quietly accumulating Meridian shares through various entities. "Everything in place?" Jake asked as Drew sat down. Drew loosened his tie slightly. "Detective Alvarez's final report arrived today. The financial documentation is complete." Sabrina raised an eyebrow. "You are sure you want to do it this way? Could be cleaner to serve divorce papers privately." "Lauren thrives on public perception," Drew replied, his voice cool. "She needs to understand exactly what she is losing and who she has lost it to. Tonight is not just about ending a marriage. It is about launching a takeover." Olivia appeared at Drew's elbow. "Sir, Mrs. Keene has arrived with a companion." Drew nodded, his expression unchanging. "Show them in. And, Olivia, make sure security staff is ready." The pieces were in place. The trap was set. Drew straightened his tie and prepared to convert 11 years of calculated patience into decisive action. The click of Lauren's designer heels announced her arrival before she appeared in the private dining alcove. At 36, she carried herself with the confident arrogance of someone who believed she was untouchable. Her Valentino dress charged to her Meridian expense account, Drew noted mentally, was carefully chosen to command attention. Colin Avery trailed behind her, eagerness evident in every movement, like an overly excited lapdog at his owner's heels. The moment Lauren spotted Jake Nolan and Sabrina Cortez at the table, her step faltered. Colin nearly collided with her, his hand automatically reaching for her waist before he caught himself. Drew watched the micro-expression of panic cross Lauren's face before she masked it with practiced corporate confidence. "Jake." "Sabrina." Lauren recovered quickly, her voice professionally pleasant. "I was not expecting a business dinner, Drew. You should have mentioned we would have company." Drew gestured to the empty chairs. "Sit down, Lauren. You too, Colin, since you are so integral to this discussion." Colin's face flushed. "Mrs. Keene, perhaps I should sit," Drew said, the command cutting through Colin's hesitation like a blade. "You have been quite comfortable in your role so far. No need to play coy now." Lauren's eyes narrowed as she took her seat, her spine rigid. If you have something to say, Drew, say it. Some of us have actual work to attend to. Actual work, Drew repeated softly, opening his briefcase. Like your 4-day marketing strategy session at the Park Hyatt Chicago last month. He placed several photographs on the table. Room service for 2. Charge to your corporate card. Interesting choice of venue, considering Meridian has a preferred rate at the Marriott. Colin's face went from red to white. Lauren's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass, but her voice remained steady. If you are implying something inappropriate, I am not implying anything. Drew interrupted, laying out more documents. I am stating facts. Facts supported by GPS data, credit card statements, and some very explicit messages the board might find interesting, particularly the ones where you mock my pathetic career choices while misusing company funds to finance your relationship. Sabrina leaned forward, her interest purely professional. Mrs. Keene, as a major shareholder, I am particularly concerned about the financial implications. Care to explain these expense reports? Lauren's composure cracked. You had me followed? You spied on me. She turned to Jake. You are part of this? After everything I have done for Meridian? Jake's laugh was cold. You mean like sidelining our best engineers to promote your boyfriend here? Or perhaps you are referring to the creative accounting that has been hiding your personal expenses. This is harassment, Colin blurted. I will file a complaint with HR. HR reports to the board. Sabrina cut in smoothly. And as of this morning, the board has some serious questions about your qualifications and hiring process. Drew watched realization dawn in Lauren's eyes. This was not just about their marriage. This was about her carefully constructed professional facade crumbling under the weight of her own hubris. You pathetic loser, Lauren spat at Drew, her carefully maintained poise shattering. You think this little ambush changes anything? I built my career while you played house husband. You are an embarrassment I cannot stand to look at anymore. Colin is twice the man you will ever be. Drew's expression remained unchanged as he placed a final envelope on the table. Your definition of manhood seems limited to private conduct which, according to the hotel surveillance, is about as unimpressive as your management skills. Colin stood abruptly, his chair scraping. You cannot talk to her like that. Sit down, Mr. Avery, Sabrina said, her voice carrying the weight of institutional authority. Unless you prefer to discuss your accounting methods with regulators. Drew opened the envelope, spreading out its contents. Divorce papers, Lauren already filed with the court. You will find them quite comprehensive, including evidence of your infidelity and financial misconduct. My resignation from Keene Advisory is there as well. I no longer need to maintain that particular cover. Lauren's voice faltered. What are you talking about? Jake smiled thinly. Drew's consulting work gave him access to Meridian's vulnerabilities, very thorough access. Eleanor Hastings was particularly impressed with his insights. The color drained from Lauren's face at the mention of Meridian's founder. Eleanor? What does she have to do with this? Everything, Drew stated simply. She has been quite concerned about the company's direction under current leadership. The board meeting later this week should be interesting. You think you can threaten me? Lauren's laugh held a note of hysteria. I am the one who made something of myself while you played martyr supporting my career. I am the one with power here. Power. Drew's voice remained calm. You confused visibility with control, Lauren. Real power is quiet. It is in the relationships you build, the loyalty you earn, and the patience to wait for the perfect moment to act. He stood, buttoning his jacket. You will receive official notice of the emergency board meeting tomorrow. I suggest you review your employment contract, particularly the moral conduct clauses. Colin reached for Lauren's arm. We should call our lawyers. Our lawyers. Drew's laugh was genuine. Mr. Avery, I do not think you understand. You are not a team anymore. In fact, he checked his watch. As of 6 this evening, you are not even an employee of Meridian Technologies. The termination paperwork has already been processed. Lauren stood suddenly, her chair toppling backward. You will regret this, Drew. I will destroy you. I will take everything. You will take nothing. Drew cut her off. The prenuptial agreement you insisted on works both ways, Lauren. Infidelity clauses are particularly strict. As for destroying me, he smiled, and for the first time Lauren saw something dangerous in his eyes. You had 11 years to figure out who I really am. Your failure to do so is about to become very expensive. Olivia appeared at Drew's side with impeccable timing. Sir, Your car is ready, and security is available if needed. That will not be necessary, Drew replied, gathering his documents. Mrs. Keene was just leaving, though she might want to check her corporate credit cards first. I believe there may be some authorization issues. Lauren fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking as she opened her banking app. The color drained from her face. What did you do? The board has initiated a spending freeze pending a financial audit, Sabrina explained, professional and cool. Standard procedure when investigating potential misconduct. Drew walked to the door, then paused. One more thing, Lauren. Caleb knows. He overheard you laughing about his pathetic father on the phone. Remember that when you were explaining to the custody evaluator why you missed his last 3 school events for emergency meetings with Colin. Lauren's face crumpled, the full impact of her actions finally hitting her. Goodbye, Lauren. Colin. Drew nodded to Jake and Sabrina. The car will take you to the office. We have work to do. As Drew walked out of Bramwell, he heard Lauren's voice rising in panic, demanding answers from Jake and Sabrina, but he did not look back. In his pocket, his phone buzzed with a message from Eleanor Hastings. Everything proceeding as planned? Yes, he typed back. Board meeting is scheduled. Time to clean house. The valet brought his Audi around, and Drew slipped behind the wheel. The night was not over. There were documents to review and strategies to finalize. But the first phase was complete. Lauren had finally seen behind his carefully constructed facade far too late to save herself. Eleanor Hastings sat in her penthouse office reviewing the documents Drew had prepared. At 70, she had built Meridian Technologies from nothing, and she would be damned if she watched it crumble under Lauren Keene's leadership. The night skyline of Chicago stretched before her as she examined each page with meticulous attention. The shareholders are aligned? She asked, not looking up from the papers. Drew stood by the window, his reflection barely visible in the glass. Jake and Sabrina have secured the support we need. The institutional investors are concerned about the recent accounting irregularities. Eleanor smiled, the expression making her look years younger. You have been playing this game for years, have you not, Drew? All those consulting projects building relationships, earning trust while everyone underestimated you. People see what they expect to see, Drew replied, turning to face her. Lauren saw a supportive husband who sacrificed his ambitions for her career. The board saw a diligent consultant who understood their concerns. No one questioned why a University of Chicago MBA would choose smaller clients over prestigious firms. Detective Maya Alvarez entered, carrying a thick folder. Final surveillance report. Mr. Keene, including the offshore transfers Mr. Avery tried to hide. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Colin has been stealing. Creative accounting, Alvarez explained, laying out financial documents. He's been skimming from the marketing budget, hiding it through inflated vendor contracts. Mrs. Keene signed off on all of it either deliberately or through negligence. Drew examined the documents. How much? Nearly $2 million over the past 20 months, Alvarez replied. I've traced it through shell companies in the Cayman. He was not as clever as he thought. Eleanor's face hardened. The company I built, they treated it like their personal piggy bank. They will answer for it, Drew assured her. Regulators will be very interested in these transactions. But first, we need to secure the company's future. Eleanor nodded, reaching for a leather portfolio on her desk. That is why you are here tonight. My lawyers have finished the paperwork for the voting trust. Drew sat across from her as she opened the portfolio. Inside was a document he had spent months helping to craft, though only Eleanor's lawyers knew of his involvement. 30% of Meridian's voting shares, Eleanor explained, though Drew knew the numbers by heart. Transferred to a trust with you as trustee. The arrangement is bulletproof. My lawyers made sure of that. Lauren will challenge it, Drew noted. Let her try, Eleanor said with a sharp laugh. The succession plan is clear, the trust documentation is impeccable, and the filings are already in process. More importantly, she fixed Drew with a stern look. I trust you to protect what I have built. Alvarez laid out more surveillance photos. Mrs. Keene has been calling board members all evening. No one is taking her calls. They are waiting to see which way the wind blows. Tomorrow's board meeting will settle that question, Drew observed. Eleanor signed the trust document with a steady hand. Tell me something, Drew. When did you first start planning this? The day Lauren suggested I take consulting work to be more available for Caleb, Drew replied. She thought she was relegating me to a convenient backup role. Instead, she gave me access to every aspect of Meridian's operations. And you used that access well, Eleanor said, impressed. The shareholders trust you because you actually listen to their concerns. The employees respect you because you have shown interest in their work. While Lauren was playing office politics, you were building real relationships. Detective Alvarez gathered her files. I will have my team monitor Mrs. Keene's movements, Mr. Avery's too. They might try something desperate. Let them. Drew's voice was cold. Every move they make now only strengthens our position. After Alvarez left, Eleanor poured 2 glasses of scotch. To think Lauren never realized who she was married to. 11 years, Drew. 11 years of watching, waiting, building your network while she called you a pathetic house husband. Drew took the offered glass. She will understand her mistakes soon enough. The board meeting tomorrow will be interesting. Jake tells me the institutional investors are particularly concerned about the marketing department's expenditures, Eleanor mused. They should be. Drew placed a USB drive on her desk. That contains every irregular transaction Colin and Lauren authorized over the past 22 months. The audit committee will find it illuminating. Eleanor studied him over her glass. When you first started consulting for us, I thought you were wasting your potential in elite MBA doing piecemeal projects. But you saw something I did not, did you not? I saw an opportunity, Drew confirmed. Every project gave me deeper insight into Meridian's operations. Every relationship I built was another piece on the board. Lauren thought she was the chess master. She was just moving pieces at random. And now the game is over. She just does not know it yet. Drew stood, straightening his jacket. The trust documents will be registered first thing tomorrow. By noon, the board will convene. By close of business, Meridian will have new leadership. Eleanor walked him to the door. You are a dangerous man, Drew. Keen, patient, methodical, ruthless when necessary. Exactly what Meridian needs. I learned from the best, Drew said with a slight smile. You built this company by outthinking your opponents, not outspending them. Tomorrow, we will save what you built. As Drew drove home, his phone buzzed with updates. Jake confirming the board meeting logistics. Sabrina reporting that institutional investors were backing their play. Detective Alvarez noting that Lauren had checked into the Peninsula Chicago apparently. Not all of her corporate cards were frozen yet. In his apartment, Caleb was asleep on the couch, his science project materials spread across the coffee table. Mrs. Delgado had left a note. Caleb had refused to go to bed until he finished the renewable energy model. Drew carried his son to bed, something he had not done in years. Tomorrow would bring chaos and corporate warfare, but tonight he was simply a father protecting his child's future. As he closed Caleb's door, his phone lit up with a message from Lauren. We need to talk. Please. I can explain everything. Drew deleted the message without responding. The time for talks had passed. Tomorrow would bring consequences, and Lauren would finally understand exactly whom she had betrayed. The quiet moves were over. Now it was time for action. 4 months after the confrontation at Bramwell, Drew Keene stood in his newly acquired penthouse apartment, surveying the Chicago skyline through reinforced glass. The property had been purchased through Redwood Holdings LLC, one of several entities he had established years ago. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer, Patricia Lang. Custody hearing scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Evidence packages prepared. Child psychologist Dr. Julia Shun confirmed for expert testimony. Drew typed a brief acknowledgement. The custody battle had become Lauren's last desperate attempt to maintain control, but like everything else, she had underestimated his preparation. Mr. Keene? Eric Dalton's voice interrupted his thoughts. The former Navy SEAL turned personal trainer stood in the doorway of the penthouse's private gym. Ready for your session? Drew nodded, already changed into workout gear. Over the past 12 weeks, Dalton had transformed their training into a brutal test of will every burn, every ache another step in Drew's methodical metamorphosis. Your form's improving, Dalton noted as Drew completed a complex series of exercises. Strength gains are significant. Most clients would have quit by week 2. I am not most clients, Drew replied between controlled breaths. How long until we reach the target metrics? At this rate, another 5 weeks, Dalton said, checking his tablet. Though I have to ask why the emphasis on functional strength over aesthetics? Most executives just want to look good in a suit. Looking good in a suit is Megan's department, Drew said, referencing his image consultant. I need to be stronger than anyone expects. The session continued for another hour, each movement precisely calibrated. As Drew completed the final set, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was Gregory Pierce. Conference room in an hour. Bring the Meridian financials. Drew showered and dressed in one of the new suits Megan Hollis had selected. The image consultant had systematically replaced his wardrobe, each piece chosen to project authority without ostentation. The goal is not to look different, Megan had explained during their first consultation. It is to look like you have stepped into who you always were. In the penthouse study, Drew reviewed the custody hearing preparation. Dr. Shun's psychological evaluation of Caleb was comprehensive, detailed documentation of Lauren's absences, the impact of her relationship on Caleb's emotional well-being, and Drew's consistent presence in his son's life. Dad, Caleb stood in the doorway. He had adapted well to the penthouse, his new room filled with the science equipment Drew had encouraged him to explore. Can I ask you something? Always. Mom called again. She was crying, saying she's sorry, that she wants to come home. Caleb's voice held more confusion than distress. She said you're being cruel keeping me from her. Do you feel kept from her? Drew asked. No. She's the one who kept missing everything: my science fair, parent-teacher conferences, even my birthday dinner. Caleb's expression hardened in a way that reminded Drew of himself. I heard what she said about you in those messages with Colin. She's the cruel one. The custody hearing is tomorrow, Drew explained. Whatever happens, it is about ensuring your stability. Your mother made her choices. I want to stay with you, Caleb said firmly. I told Dr. Shin that Mom only remembers I exist when it helps her look good. A knock at the door interrupted them. Gregory Pierce entered, carrying a thick portfolio. At 63, Pierce had orchestrated some of the most aggressive corporate turnarounds in recent history. Caleb, why don't you work on your robotics project? Drew suggested. We will have dinner after my meeting. Once Caleb left, Pierce spread documents across the desk. Meridian's financial structure is more vulnerable than it appears. Lauren's leadership team has been creative with the numbers, but not creative enough. Show me. For the next 2 hours, Pierce walked Drew through the intricacies of hostile takeover defenses, every potential mechanism, every regulatory requirement, every shareholder pressure point methodically analyzed. Eleanor's voting trust is key, Pierce concluded. With her 30% stake under your control combined with Jake's and my holdings, we can force a board vote. Timing is crucial. The trust documentation is already filed, Drew noted. Lauren's team will look for ways to challenge it. Let them try, Pierce said with a grim smile. Eleanor's lawyers made it bulletproof. The real question is, are you ready for what comes next? Taking control is one thing. Holding it requires a different kind of ruthlessness. I spent 11 years being underestimated, Drew replied. That ends now. Their discussion was interrupted by another message, this one from Detective Alvarez. Surveillance photos showed Lauren leaving her lawyer's office, her expression desperate. Attached were recordings of her recent phone calls as she tried to rally support among Meridian's executives. She's getting sloppy, Alvarez noted. Making threats, trying to buy loyalty with promises she cannot keep. Drew forwarded the evidence to Patricia Lang for the custody hearing. Every desperate move Lauren made only strengthened his position. The next morning, Drew arrived at the courthouse early. Caleb sat beside him in the gallery, both dressed in suits Megan had selected for maximum impact. Successful father, well-adjusted son. Lauren arrived late, her designer outfit carefully chosen to project maternal concern. Her lawyer, James Morrison, immediately tried to paint Drew as controlling and vindictive. Your Honor, Morrison began, Mr. Keene has systematically alienated my client from her son, using his financial resources to dash. Objection. Patricia Lang interrupted. Counsel is attempting to prejudice the court without evidence. We have documented proof of Mrs. Keene's pattern of neglecting her parental duties. Judge Eleanor Martinez, no relation to the detective, reviewed the evidence packages. Drew watched as she examined the calendar entries, the missed events, the messages mocking family obligations. Dr. Shin's testimony was particularly damaging. In my professional opinion, she said, Caleb shows signs of emotional withdrawal specifically related to his mother's pattern of choosing professional and personal engagements over parental responsibilities. In contrast, his relationship with his father demonstrates secure attachment and healthy emotional development. Lauren's facade cracked when Caleb testified. Mom says she loves me, but she's never there. She missed my science fair to be with Colin. She forgot my birthday because of a business dinner. Dad's the one who's always been there. You ungrateful little dash. Lauren started to rise, but Morrison yanked her back down. The judge's decision was decisive. Based on the evidence presented, including the child's clear preference and the documented pattern of maternal neglect, primary custody is awarded to the father. Mrs. Keene will have supervised visitation to be reviewed in 6 months pending demonstrated improvement in her commitment to parental responsibilities. Outside the courtroom, Lauren tried one last time. Drew, please. You cannot do this. He is my son too. He was your son every day for the past 12 years, Drew replied calmly. You just did not care until you started losing everything else. He turned to Caleb. Wait for me by the car with Frank. Once Caleb was out of earshot, Drew's voice turned cold. You questioned my character, mocked my sacrifice, and undermined our family. Now you will understand exactly what you threw away. Is this about your bruised ego? Lauren's laugh was brittle. No, Lauren. This is about consequences. The custody hearing was just the beginning. The board meeting is later this week. I suggest you update your resume. As realization set in, Drew walked away. In the car, Caleb was already immersed in a robotics book. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The morning of the emergency board meeting bloomed clear and crisp. Drew adjusted his tie in the penthouse mirror. The buy-in suit was new, another of Megan Hollis's selections cut to emphasize the physical changes from months of training with Dalton. His phone lit up with coordinated messages. Jake Nolan. Institutional investors confirmed. Proxy votes secured. Sabrina Cortez. Asian markets closing, steady timing works in our favor. Patricia Lang. Filings complete. Trust documentation airtight. Detective Alvarez. Subject L attempting last-minute calls to board members. No responses. Eleanor Hastings. Make it quick. Make it clean. Make it legal. Show them what real leadership looks like. Meridian's boardroom occupied the top floor of their downtown headquarters. Drew arrived early, reviewing his materials with Jake and Sabrina while other members filtered in. Nervous? Jake asked quietly. Drew's smile was razor-thin. You have known me since college. When have you ever seen me nervous? Fair point, Jake said. I have seen you patient, though. 11 years of patience pays off today. The room filled steadily. Drew noted each arrival, each whispered conversation. Representatives of the institutional investors clustered together, concern evident in their furtive glances at their phones. Meridian stock had been volatile since rumors of irregularities began circulating. Lauren arrived last, Colin conspicuously absent. Her attempt at confident swagger was undermined by the shadows under her eyes. The custody loss had hit her hard. Drew felt no sympathy. She had chosen her path. Before we begin, Lauren started from the head of the table. I want to address these malicious rumors. Point of order, Sabrina interrupted smoothly. As representative of major shareholders, I move to modify the agenda. We have serious concerns about recent financial disclosures that require immediate attention. I second, Jake said formally. The motion requires a simple majority, said the corporate secretary, Janet Ho. All in favor. An institutional investor lead spoke up. Irregularities in the latest filings must be addressed. Very well, Lauren managed. But first, I would like to present our quarterly dash. Those earnings are exactly what we need to discuss, Drew said, his voice carrying easily. He stood and distributed thick folders. Specifically, the creative accounting used to achieve them. Lauren went pale. You have no authority to dash. Actually, he does, said Daniel Cho, Eleanor's attorney. As trustee of Ms. Hastings's voting shares, Mr. Keene has both the authority and the responsibility to address governance concerns. The room murmured. Lauren stared at Drew, finally grasping the depth of her miscalculation. If you turn to page 3, Drew continued calmly, you will find detailed documentation of systematic accounting irregularities in the marketing department, specifically inflated vendor contracts used to disguise personal expenses and unauthorized transfers. These are baseless, Lauren snapped, though her voice shook. The regulators do not think so, Sabrina added. Their preliminary review has already flagged several transactions. Drew clicked a remote, bringing charts to the screens. Over the past 20 months, approximately $2 million has been misappropriated through a series of shells. The transactions were approved by our current either through gross negligence or deliberate complicity. This is ridiculous, Lauren tried to rally. I led this company to record profits artificial profits, Jake cut in, achieved through manipulation at the expense of long-term stability. The institutions are particularly concerned about the impact on shareholder value once these irregularities become public. Drew moved to the head of the table, forcing Lauren to step aside. I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in current leadership, to be followed by the appointment of an interim CEO and a full external audit. Seconded, came multiple voices. This is a coup, Lauren said hoarsely. You cannot Mrs. Keene, Daniel Cho interjected. Perhaps consult counsel before further statements. The vote was decisive. Hands rose, one after another. The institutional bloc voted together. Motion carries, Janet Ho announced. Vote of no confidence passes with 78% in favor. I move to appoint an interim CEO to oversee the transition and audit, Drew continued. I nominate Andrew Keene, Sabrina said. His consulting work has given him deep insight into Meridian's operations, and his track record of strategic planning is exactly what we need. You planned this, Lauren whispered. All of it. The consulting, the relationships, Eleanor's trust. I learned from you, Drew replied quietly. You taught me that power is knowing people's weaknesses, desires, and price. The difference is, I built something real while you pretended. The vote for interim CEO was even more decisive. Drew accepted with practiced humility and outlined his 100-day plan to stabilize the company and restore confidence. Security will escort you out, he informed Lauren as the meeting concluded. Your credentials have been deactivated. HR will contact you regarding the termination package. You cannot do this to me, she tried one last time. I built this company. No, Eleanor built this company. You borrowed her achievement. Drew turned to the head of security. Please ensure Mrs. Keene leaves the premises. Check her bags. As Lauren was led away, board members gathered around Drew, offering support. Jake hung back, amused. Enjoying the show? Drew asked quietly. 11 years of patience paid off in 2 hours, Jake mused. She will try to fight back. Let her, Drew said. Every move she makes now only proves why she needed to be removed. A message popped up. Caleb's school confirmed he had aced his science exam. Now, Drew added, shall we begin the real work of saving this company? Over the next 6 months, Drew transformed Meridian Technologies with surgical precision. His first act as CEO was to commission a thorough external audit by a Big Four firm. The results confirmed everything he had presented and uncovered even more irregularities under Lauren's leadership. The transformation began in the executive suite. Lauren's former domain of expensive art and designer furniture became a command center. Multiple screens tracked global operations, market data, and project timelines. The comfortable couch where she had held court was replaced by a conference table where Drew held daily strategy sessions with his new leadership team. The filing is ready for your review, Patricia Lang announced, entering with another stack of documents. As both his divorce lawyer and now Meridian's chief legal officer, she had been instrumental in navigating the complex regulatory requirements of the transition. Drew examined the papers carefully. Every move had to be legally bulletproof. Lauren's attempts to challenge her termination had already been filed. The regulatory approvals came through this morning, Patricia Lang continued. The board's decision is fully supported by the evidence of financial misconduct. Her lawsuit does not have legs, and Colin's position terminated for cause based on the audit findings. He has been quietly reaching out to headhunters, but our documentation of his creative accounting has made him toxic in the industry. Drew signed the SEC documents with a Mont Blanc Pinay gift from Eleanor Hastings years ago. Any other fires to extinguish? Lauren tried to access the building again yesterday. Security turned her away. She has been calling board members, trying to rally support, but no one is taking her calls. Patricia's smile was sharp. Amazing how quickly loyalty evaporates when people realize they backed the wrong horse. The intercom buzzed his new executive assistant, Sarah Kim, efficient and unflappable. Mr. Keene, the development team is ready for the product review. Drew gathered his materials, and headed to the conference room. The development team had been one of Meridian's strongest assets, consistently undermined by Lauren's focus on marketing over innovation. Today, they would present their latest projects without fear of their budgets being redirected to fund executive retreats. "Ladies and gentlemen," Drew addressed the room, "show me what you have been working on." For the next 2 hours, he watched as his engineers and developers presented breakthrough technologies that had been shelved under previous leadership. Each presentation reinforced his conviction that Meridian's true strength lay in innovation, not office politics. "These are impressive," he commented after the final presentation. "I want implementation plans on my desk by next week. Budget will not be an issue." The team's surprise was palpable. They had grown accustomed to fighting for every dollar. Drew's direct approach and clear support for innovation were transforming company morale. Back in his office, he reviewed the latest shareholder reports. The stock price had stabilized after initial volatility, strengthened by transparent financial reporting and clear strategic direction. The institutional investors who had backed his takeover were seeing their faith rewarded. "Mr. Keene," Sarah interrupted via intercom. "Detective Alvarez is here with her final report." Detective Maya Alvarez entered carrying a thick folder. "The surveillance operation is complete. Every attempt by Mrs. Keene to undermine your position has been documented and neutralized." Drew reviewed the report. Lauren had been busy attempting to leak sensitive information to competitors, trying to poach key employees, even approaching journalists with allegations of corporate misconduct. Each attempt had been anticipated and countered before it could gain traction. "She is getting desperate," Maya noted, "running out of options and allies." "Maintain the surveillance," Drew instructed. "She will slip eventually. When she does, I want it documented." The detective nodded and left. Drew turned to his computer, reviewing the latest company metrics. Employee satisfaction scores were up 40%. Project completion rates had improved by 35%. The external audit had revealed opportunities for operational efficiency that would improve the bottom line without sacrificing innovation. His phone buzzed with a message from Caleb. "Got an A+ on my robotics project. Can I show you after dinner?" Drew smiled briefly, his first genuine expression of the day. "Absolutely. I will be home by 7. Another message followed, this one from Jake Nolan. "Board review meeting tomorrow. The quarterly numbers are strong. You have done the impossible." "Not impossible," Drew texted back. "Just required patience and the right motivation." He spent the remainder of the afternoon in back-to-back meetings, methodically rebuilding Meridian's corporate structure. Each decision was calculated, each change designed to strengthen the company while erasing traces of Lauren's mismanagement. At 6:30, he reviewed the next day's schedule with Sarah. "The board meeting is at 9. I need the updated financial projections and the audit committee's final report." "Already on your desk, sir. Also, Mrs. Keene tried to reach you through the main switchboard again." Drew's expression hardened. "Standard protocol. No calls, no messages, no exceptions. Any communication goes through legal." "Understood. Will you be needing anything else?" "No, thank you. Good night, Sarah." As the office emptied, Drew stood at his desk reviewing one final document, the 100-day plan he had presented to the board. Each milestone had been met or exceeded. Meridian was transforming into what it should have been all along, a company driven by innovation and merit, not politics and personal ambition. His phone buzzed again, a message from Eleanor Hastings. "You have exceeded my expectations. The board reports are impressive. Thank you for trusting me with your legacy," he replied. "Trust had nothing to do with it," came her response. "I recognized in you what Lauren never could, the capacity for both vision and ruthlessness. Sometimes building something great requires clearing away what stands in the way." Drew gathered his things, preparing to head home. The security team's daily report noted that Lauren had been denied entry to the building twice more, each time growing more agitated. Her access codes had been deactivated, her parking pass revoked, her company credit cards canceled. The systematic dismantling of her corporate life was complete. In the parking garage, he passed her empty reserved spot, now reassigned to the head of research and development. Every trace of her presence was being methodically erased, replaced by something more substantial. The drive home gave him time to reflect on the past 7 months. The transformation of Meridian had been comprehensive: financial, structural, and cultural. The fear-based management style of Lauren's era had been replaced by clear metrics and merit-based advancement. Innovation was no longer sacrificed for short-term gains. His new penthouse came into view, its lights welcoming in the evening sky. Inside, Caleb would be waiting to show him the robotics project tangible proof that focus and dedication yielded results. The company was secure, his position unassailable, and his son was thriving. Drew allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Lauren had thought she was married to a pushover, a man who sacrificed his ambition for her career. Instead, she had been married to someone who understood that true power comes from patient planning and precise execution. Her betrayal had not broken him. It had simply given him permission to stop pretending. The security desk notified him that Caleb had ordered dinner from their favorite Italian restaurant. Family dinner, then a robotics project review, a normal evening in their new life. Tomorrow would bring another board meeting, another step in Meridian's transformation, another day of building something stronger on the ruins of Lauren's ambitions. Drew smiled as he rode the elevator to his penthouse. Everything had proceeded exactly as planned. The company was his, the future was secure, and his opponents had been reduced to watching helplessly from the sidelines. Revenge, he had discovered, was not about emotional outbursts or dramatic confrontations. It was about methodically dismantling everything your opponent held dear while building something greater from the wreckage. The divorce proceedings took place in the same courthouse where Drew had won custody of Caleb. Patricia Lang, now both Meridian's chief legal officer and Drew's divorce attorney, had prepared meticulously for this final dismantling of Lauren's claims. All rise, the bailiff announced as Judge Marcus Kindle entered the courtroom. Lauren sat with James Morrison, her third attorney in as many months. The first two had withdrawn after discovering the extent of her financial deceptions. Your Honor, Patricia began, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone holding a royal flush. We are prepared to present evidence of Mrs. Keene's systematic financial misconduct, including documentation of hidden accounts and misappropriated corporate funds. Morrison attempted to object. Your Honor, my client's corporate conduct has no bearing on Dash. It has every bearing. Patricia interrupted smoothly. As these accounts were maintained during the marriage and funded through activities that breach both corporate and criminal law, the funds in question are subject to marital asset considerations. Drew watched from his position beside Patricia, his expression neutral, as forensic accountant David Sue approached the witness stand. Sue had spent months unraveling Lauren's financial web. Mr. Sue, Patricia began, please explain your findings regarding Mrs. Keene's undisclosed accounts. Sue activated a presentation display. We identified 3 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands established approximately 5 years ago. Deposits into these accounts correlate directly with irregular vendor payments from Meridian Technologies' marketing budget. Lauren's face tightened as Sue methodically detailed every transaction, every hidden transfer, every attempt at concealment. Her new designer outfit, likely purchased on credit, could not mask her growing desperation. Furthermore, Sue continued, we found evidence of regular transfers to a private account belonging to Colin Avery, starting shortly after his hiring at Meridian. Objection, Morrison stood. Mr. Avery's finances are not relevant to these proceedings. Overruled, Judge Kendall replied. Given the documented relationship and its financial implications, Mr. Avery's accounts are pertinent. Patricia presented a new set of documents. Your Honor, we have prepared a complete accounting of funds that should have been declared as marital assets. Mrs. Keene's attempt to claim alimony is particularly audacious given her deliberate concealment of these resources. Lauren finally broke her silence. This is harassment. Drew is using his position to dash, Mrs. Keene. Judge Kendall cut in sharply. I advise you to remain silent unless directly addressed. These financial records speak for themselves. The proceedings continued with mechanical precision. Patricia presented evidence of Lauren's infidelity, financial misconduct, and attempts to alienate Caleb. Each document, each testimony, was another nail in the coffin of Lauren's claims. During a brief recess, Morrison approached Patricia in the hallway. We should discuss settlement terms. There are no terms to discuss, Patricia replied. Mr. Keene's position is clear. Mrs. Keene leaves with exactly what she deserves. When the court reconvened, Morrison attempted one last gambit. Your Honor, My client is willing to consider a reasonable dash if Mrs. Keene wished to discuss reasonableness. Patricia interjected. She should have considered that before attempting to conceal assets and making false claims against my client's character. The judge's ruling was decisive. The prenuptial agreement would be enforced, strengthened by evidence of Lauren's infidelity and financial misconduct. Her attempts to claim alimony were dismissed. The hidden accounts were ordered frozen, pending criminal investigation. As the judge read his decision, Drew's phone buzzed with a message from Detective Alvarez. C. Avery attempting to file wrongful termination suit. Evidence package ready. Drew forwarded the message to Patricia, who nodded slightly. They had anticipated this move. Colin's desperate attempt to salvage something from the wreckage of his career would only serve their purposes. After the ruling, Lauren attempted to approach Drew. You have destroyed everything I built. Are you happy now? Drew's response was measured, his voice carrying just far enough for the nearby court reporter to hear. You destroyed it yourself, Lauren. I simply ensured you could not take Meridian down with you. I will appeal. I will fight this. With what resources? Drew's smile was razor-thin. Your hidden accounts are frozen. Your credit is ruined. The regulators are investigating your role in Colin's creative accounting. Even your new lawyer is about to withdraw once he realizes you cannot pay his fees. As if on cue, Morrison approached with an uncomfortable expression. Mrs. Keene regarding our fee arrangement. Drew left them to their discussion, joining Patricia at the courthouse steps. Colin's lawsuit already handled, Patricia assured him. Our countersuit is prepared. The evidence of his embezzlement is comprehensive. Once he realizes we are pursuing criminal charges, he will run. Make sure Detective Alvarez knows his likely destinations. I want him followed. Already arranged. Our sources suggest he has been making inquiries about properties in Mexico. Drew checked his phone. A message from Caleb. How did it go? Justice prevailed, he typed back. See you at dinner. Later that week, Colin's lawsuit landed on Patricia's desk. Within hours, their countersuit was filed, backed by forensic accounting reports and documented evidence of systematic embezzlement. The criminal complaints followed, carefully timed to hit just as Colin was seeking new employment. He booked a flight to Cancun, Detective Alvarez reported. One-way ticket, purchased with cash. Let him run, Drew instructed. His flight makes our case stronger. Make sure the relevant authorities are notified after he crosses the border. Lauren's attempts to reach Drew grew increasingly desperate as Colin's lawsuit imploded. Her calls went unanswered. Her emails were filtered to a special folder Patricia's team monitored for useful evidence. Each attempt only reinforced the justice of her isolation. The final piece fell into place when Colin's assistant, sensing the shifting winds, provided copies of emails documenting the full extent of his financial schemes. The evidence was damning not just of Colin's embezzlement, but of Lauren's knowing compliance. Found something interesting, Patricia noted, reviewing the emails. Colin has been asking Lauren for money. Apparently, his exit strategy was not as well funded as he thought. Drew allowed himself a small smile. Forward the relevant emails to the forensic accounting team. Let us make sure every penny is traced. The next day, Colin's lawyer withdrew from the wrongful termination suit. Within hours, Colin's phone was disconnected, his apartment cleaned out. Detective Alvarez's team tracked him to the airport, documenting his flight to Mexico with meticulous detail. Lauren's reaction to Colin's flight was everything Drew had anticipated: her desperate calls to former associates, her attempts to distance herself from his actions, her increasingly frantic efforts to salvage her own reputation. All of it documented, all of it strengthening their position. She is running out of options, Patricia observed, reviewing the latest surveillance reports. No job prospects, no financial resources, no allies left. Good, Drew replied simply. Let her understand exactly what she threw away. The final divorce decree arrived without fanfare, a simple document ending 13 years of marriage. Drew signed it without hesitation, another piece in the systematic conclusion of Lauren's campaign. That evening, he reviewed the latest reports from Detective Alvarez. Colin had been tracked to a small coastal town in Mexico, attempting to rebuild his life under an assumed name. Lauren had been reduced to selling her designer clothes online, her credit cards maxed out, her former social circle evaporated. Justice, Drew mused, is sometimes best served cold. The transformation of Meridian Technologies under Drew's leadership was comprehensive and disciplined. His first major decision sent shockwaves through the company. Promoting Sandra Martinez, a brilliant engineer Lauren had deliberately sidelined, to Chief Technology Officer. Your proposal for the new R&D division is ambitious, Drew noted, reviewing Sandra's plans in his office. Tell me why it will work. Sandra, whose innovative designs had been buried under Lauren's marketing-first regime, laid out a detailed vision. We have been playing it safe, chasing quarterly numbers instead of real breakthroughs. Give me 3 months and a proper budget. I will show you what this team can do. Drew signed the approval without hesitation. You have 3 months. Show me results. The changes rippled through Meridian like shockwaves. Political appointees were replaced with technical experts. Project funding followed innovation rather than internal politics. The culture shifted from presentation to performance. The engineering team's morale has increased 60% since the reorganization, Sarah Kim reported during the monthly metrics review. Project completion rates are up, overtime is down, and we are seeing unprecedented collaboration between departments. Caleb, now thriving in the stable environment Drew had created, spent afternoons in Meridian's new youth science program, an initiative Drew had approved to nurture young talent. The boys' interest in technology blossomed, encouraged by mentors from the engineering team. "Dad, look at this," Caleb exclaimed one evening, demonstrating a robot he had built in the program. "Sandra helped me optimize the control algorithms." Drew watched his son's excitement with satisfaction. This was what he had fought for, not just corporate success, but creating an environment where innovation and merit were valued above politics and appearances. The company's transformation attracted attention. Industry publications noted Meridian's increasing patent filings, its aggressive recruitment of top technical talent, its growing reputation for genuine breakthroughs rather than marketing hype. "The market is responding," Jake noted during a strategy session. "Share price is up nearly 42% since you took over. The institutional investors are thrilled." Sabrina Cortez added her perspective. "More importantly, the pipeline has quality, real innovations, not repackaged features." Through mutual contacts, Drew received occasional updates about Lauren. She had moved to a small apartment in Milwaukee, taking a middle management position at a regional firm. Her attempts to leverage her Meridian experience had failed. Drew's team had been thorough in documenting her role in the financial irregularities. "She tried to reach out to some of our former clients," Detective Alvarez reported. "They shut her down immediately. Your documentation of her misconduct was comprehensive." Colin's desperate emails to Lauren, begging for money from his Mexican exile, were automatically forwarded to Drew's legal team. Each message strengthened their position, documenting the full extent of their former collaboration. "Your quarterly presentation to the board is ready for review," Sarah informed Drew one morning. "R&D wants to demonstrate the new prototype as well." The board meeting showcased Meridian's transformation. Sandra's team presented breakthrough technologies developed in months rather than years. The financial reports showed strong growth built on innovation rather than accounting tricks. "This is what Meridian should have been all along," Eleanor commented after the presentation. "You have exceeded my expectations, Drew." Caleb's progress matched the company's. His grades had improved dramatically, his interest in science and technology fostered by both his father's attention and Meridian's resources. The stability of his home life with Drew had erased the uncertainty of Lauren's era. The school's science department requested that Caleb present his robotics project at the state competition, Mrs. Delgado reported one evening. "He is already working on improvements." Drew's leadership style became a topic of study in the industry. His decisions were swift and final, his standards uncompromising, his support for innovation absolute. Those who delivered results thrived. Those who played politics disappeared. 1 year after taking control of Meridian, Drew stood at the podium of the Chicago Business Awards, accepting the Most Innovative Company trophy. The audience included the city's business elite save for one conspicuously absent former executive. "Innovation is not about buzzwords," Drew stated in his acceptance speech. "It is about creating an environment where brilliant people can do extraordinary work." Meridian's success belongs to our engineers, our developers, and our visionaries who now have the freedom to push boundaries. Back at Meridian's headquarters, Eleanor's portrait held a place of honor in the boardroom. Beside it hung her final letter to Drew. Sometimes the quietest ones make the best leaders. You prove me right. The celebration dinner that evening gathered the key players who had helped transform Meridian. Caleb, now confident and academically thriving, sat between Sandra and Jake, eagerly discussing his latest robotics project. Sabrina engaged in strategic planning with the R&D team. Patricia shared quiet jokes with Detective Alvarez about their former targets' continuing misfortunes. Quite a change from a year ago, Jake noted quietly to Drew. Remember when Lauren thought she was untouchable? Drew's response was measured. Power is not about titles or corner offices. It is about building something that lasts. The evening news played silently on a nearby screen, showing Meridian stock hitting another record high. Sarah approached with a message card, which Drew read without changing expression. Lauren, Jake guessed. Another attempt to reach out through intermediaries? Apparently her regional management position is not as satisfying as she hoped, Drew said, passing the card to Patricia for the legal team's records. He turned his attention back to Caleb, who was demonstrating his latest innovation to an impressed audience of engineers. The next morning, Drew arrived early at his office. The message from Lauren joined hundreds of others in the legal team's evidence files. On his desk, proposals for Meridian's expansion into Asian markets awaited his review. Sarah entered with the morning briefing. The board approved the employee stock option program. HR is preparing the announcements. Good. Make sure the distribution prioritizes the technical teams, Drew said, signing the authorization while reviewing market reports. What else? R&D wants to schedule a review of the quantum computing project. And Caleb's school called. He won first place in the science fair. Drew allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The company was thriving, his son was flourishing, and his opponents were exactly where they deserved to be, watching from the shadows of their own mediocrity. Sometimes, he mused, reviewing the latest innovation reports, the best revenge is not destroying your opponents. It is building something so magnificent they are forced to witness their own irrelevance. The morning sun illuminated Meridian's transformed headquarters. In the labs below, Sandra's teams worked on technologies that would reshape industries. In the boardroom, Eleanor's portrait watched over a company finally worthy of its founder's vision. And in his office, Drew Keene, the man who had orchestrated it all, focused on building an even greater future. The quiet certainty of victory, he had learned, is sweeter than any dramatic gesture of payback. Sarah, he called, schedule a review of the Asia expansion proposals and call Caleb's school. I will be there for his science fair presentation. Real power was not in what you could tear down. It was in what you could build, what you could nurture, what you could transform. Drew had built something magnificent from the ashes of betrayal, and that was a resolution far sweeter than destruction could ever be. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Wall Street Journal headline caught Lauren Keene's attention as she waited for her bus to downtown Milwaukee. Meridian Technologies revolutionizes quantum computing market. Stock surges past $520. Below the headline was a photo of Andrew Keene, now 44, accepting another innovation award. Lauren's hands trembled as she folded the newspaper into her worn handbag. Her regional management position at Midwest Data Solutions had ended 2 years ago. Budget cuts, they said, but she knew her reputation had finally caught up with her. Now she processed insurance claims in a windowless office, her designer wardrobe long since sold, her savings depleted. Her phone buzzed, another email from Colin Avery, still hiding in Mexico. His latest venture had failed like the others. His message was familiar, begging for money, blaming her for their downfall, threatening to expose more details about their past schemes if she did not help. Delete, she muttered. That morning, her ancient Honda's check engine light had started flickering. She could not afford repairs, not with her credit still ruined from the divorce proceedings. Meanwhile, in Meridian's Chicago headquarters, Drew reviewed the latest acquisition proposals with his executive team. Sandra Martinez had just returned from a successful presentation at MIT. The quantum computing breakthrough changes everything, Sandra explained, highlighting projected market impacts. We are 5 years ahead of our closest competitors. Caleb, now 18 and already taking advanced placement courses through Northwestern's dual enrollment program, sat in on the meeting. Drew had instituted a mentorship track allowing gifted students to observe executive sessions. His son's aptitude for technology had flourished under Sandra's guidance. The Asia expansion exceeded projections, Jake Nolan noted, now Meridian's chief strategy officer. Sabrina Cortez smiled slightly. Her early backing of Drew's takeover had multiplied many times over. Speaking of signals, our intelligence division has an update on Colin Avery. Drew raised an eyebrow. His latest scheme collapsed spectacularly, Sabrina said. He tried to convince investors in Mexico he had proprietary Meridian technology to sell. Detective Alvarez's team documented everything. Patricia Lang, now global chief legal officer, added, "We have ensured Mexican authorities are aware of his fraudulent activities. His options for hiding are becoming limited." Drew's methodical neutralization of his opponents had become a Harvard Business School case study in strategic corporate warfare. The article Patient Predator, the Meridian Transformation, detailed how he had dismantled the old regime while building something greater. "Dad," Caleb interrupted, pointing to his tablet. "Colin is trying to scrub his online presence. My tracking script caught him deleting accounts." Drew allowed himself a small smile. Caleb had inherited his gift for patient strategy, paired with a sharp technical mind. Sarah Kim, now Drew's chief of staff, entered with more updates. Mrs. Delgado called from the charitable foundation. The Science Education Initiative is expanding to 50 more schools. The Maria Delgado Foundation for Youth Science Education, generously funded by Meridian, had become Drew's tribute to their loyal former housekeeper after her retirement. She now supervised programs giving opportunities to promising students from under-resourced backgrounds. "And Lauren?" Drew asked, maintaining his tradition of quarterly intelligence reviews on potential threats. "Working insurance claims in Milwaukee," Sarah reported. "Her apartment building is being converted to condos. She cannot afford the buy-in or moving costs. Her last 3 job applications were rejected after background checks referenced the prior investigation." The systematic consequences of Lauren's actions had become a warning throughout the business world. Her attempts to rebuild were blocked by the toxic combination of documented misconduct and the long memory of those she had crossed. Detective Alvarez's latest photos showed the toll of 5 years of decline: visible aging in place of cosmetic polish, off-the-rack business casual in place of power suits, a defeated shuffle where there had once been a calculated stride. Colin had fared no better. His exile devolved into failed schemes and increasingly desperate attempts to trade on his Meridian past. Each attempt met immediate legal action. "The Mexican authorities are closing in," Alvarez reported. His latest investment fraud drew the attention of their Securities Commission. He is running out of places to hide. Drew's influence had grown far beyond Meridian. Strategic Investments, guided by Sabrina's expertise, had built a technology consortium reshaping multiple industries. Each success was another twist of the knife for those who had underestimated him. Eleanor's portrait still held its place of honor in the boardroom, now joined by a gallery of innovation awards and patents. Her letter to Drew had become part of company lore. The next morning, Caleb burst into Drew's home office, excitement breaking his usually composed demeanor. "Dad, MIT accepted me into their advanced program." Drew examined the acceptance letter with pride. His son had earned this on merit, no strings pulled, no favors called. Caleb's brilliance, nurtured in the stable environment Drew had fought to create, had bloomed naturally. "We should celebrate," Drew decided. "Invite Sandra and the research team. You can share your quantum encryption proposals." That evening, as Caleb presented his ideas to an appreciative audience of technical experts, Drew reflected on the completeness of his resolution. He had neutralized his opponents not through noisy clashes, but by building something so exceptional that their own mediocrity became its own sentence. A message from Detective Alvarez provided a fitting counterpoint. Colin Avery had been arrested in Cancun, his latest investment scheme drawing federal attention. His desperate attempt to trade information for leniency met a wall of documented evidence of his embezzlement. Lauren's response to Colin's arrest made the local Milwaukee news. She was recorded having a public breakdown in her company's lobby. The video went viral, further shrinking any remaining employment prospects. "Karma," Sandra commented, watching the clip, "is best served systematically." The next week, Drew hosted Meridian's annual Innovation Awards. The company had become a magnet for technical talent, its culture of merit and invention a stark contrast to the politicking of the past. Success, Drew told the assembled crowd, comes from building. But sometimes you must clear away the deadwood before new growth can flourish. In Milwaukee, Lauren watched the live stream from her efficiency apartment, surrounded by remnants of her former life. Her phone contained Colin's increasingly unhinged emails from prison. Her bank account showed a negative balance. Her old network had long since blocked her number. The final sting arrived in her mailbox, a University of Chicago alumni magazine, featuring Drew on the cover. The article detailed Meridian's rise under his leadership, praising his strategic clarity and innovative vision. Her own name appeared only once in a sidebar on failed corporate governance. In his penthouse office, Drew received a quarterly update. Lauren had applied for bankruptcy protection. Colin faced extradition on investment fraud charges. Their fall from relevance was complete. Quantum encryption protocol has passed initial testing, Sandra reported, shifting the focus to what mattered. Federal agencies are interested in licensing. Drew nodded, already moving past the old battles. He had learned long ago that the most satisfying resolution was not watching enemies fall. It was soaring so high that they disappeared from view. The Maria Delgado Foundation announced its latest initiative, fully funded technical scholarships for promising students. Caleb had suggested the program, understanding that true legacy comes from creating opportunities, not crushing rivals. Your mother called again, Sarah mentioned during the morning briefing. Same message as always. Drew's response was the same it had been for 5 years: silence. Lauren's periodic pleas for reconciliation met the fate her choices had earned: no access, no leverage, no reply. In the end, Drew's triumph had transcended retaliation. He built an enterprise on the ashes of betrayal, his success a perpetual reminder to those who had gambled against him. Their suffering did not come from his direct hand, but from the contrast between his ascent and their own diminishing relevance. At Caleb's celebration dinner, Sandra, Jake, Sabrina, Patricia, Detective Alvarez, and Maria Delgado at the table. Drew surveyed the circle that had helped transform Meridian. Each had played a part. Each had been rewarded with trust and opportunity. To the future, he toasted, surrounded by loyalty and achievement, while his former opponents faded into obscurity. That, he knew, was the most exquisite resolution of all. That's the end of today's story. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. We read them all. And thanks for watching. You're always welcome here.